On the 5th National Poverty Alleviation Day, October the 17th, 2018, Huangdu village in Zhejiang dug up 15 million tea seedlings. They were going to be sent to 4 poverty-stricken counties in Hunan, Sichuan, and Guizhou. Huangdu itself had received help from the authorities to cultivate white tea as a way of raising local living standards. Now the villagers wanted to help others who were still poor.
扶贫开发是全党全社会的共同责任，要动员和凝聚全社会力量，广泛参与。
Victory in the poverty alleviation campaign could be guaranteed by everyone working together. This, in turn, would herald the dawn of a moderately prosperous society. Shihaigu in Ningxia is a mountainous region. Arid and desolate, it's been declared by the United Nations as unfit for human habitation. 8 poverty-stricken counties were located here. Transforming Shihaigu would be a huge challenge. In 1996, the central government introduced a strategy of mutual assistance between the country's east and west. Under it, Ningxia was paired with the coastal province of Fujian. In April 1997, Xi Jinping, then Deputy Party Secretary of Fujian Province, visited Shihaigu on a poverty relief fact-finding mission. He proposed building a new village in the area.
先富帮后富，还是要共同富裕，是吧？所以我当时在福建，我那个时候当时就成立了一个闽宁协作领导小组，我是组长，来抓这个事情。但是那个时候东部地区你拿很多钱来搞这个也不可能，但是当时也是上千万。 做了这个闽宁村，这个是一个很有效的一个措施。接下来呢，我们还要做，全国呢还要把这个移民工程搞好，这是扶贫的一个必要手段。一方水土养活不了一方人的地方，这个只有谁能做呢？只有共产党能够做，我们社会主义制度能够做。
Under the scheme launched by Xi Jinping, government officials and business people flocked to Ningxia, and some settled in Shihaigu. At the same time, large numbers of people from Ningxia's poorer areas headed to Fujian to work. At a major conference held in Yongshun, capital of Ningxia, in July 2016, President Xi called on the east of the country to make a bigger effort to support poverty alleviation in the west. In Shihaigu, Fujian's example of establishing Mining had led to 110 more villages being built.
今天我们来培训一款 DIY 的产品绣球。首先，大家拿出说明书看一下里面的配件。
Ma Wenhong used to be living in extreme poverty. But when she left the mountains and moved into a new settlement, she found a job at a factory.
自己可以挣一点零花钱，也可以带领自己的小孩，还可以照顾家里面的老人，挣钱顾家了不误。
Minning subsequently introduced a new poverty alleviation initiative, a center for the disabled who were still able to work. There, they would be looked after while also being trained to develop a skill. When Xin Baotong and two other young people founded an e-commerce business, people from Fujian helped them to develop their market. By selling local produce from Shihaigu, they earned 20 million yuan in the first year.
刚开始的时候，我们就在想，我们几个残疾人一块儿能够把我们自己养活住，我就觉得已经很好了。但是真的没想到，在民营协作的帮助下，通过我们的努力，能够让全县的2000多残疾人，然后分红受益。有时候感觉真的自己挺自豪的。
From assistance to industrial cooperation, from financial support to deeper cooperation in social undertakings, the Fujian Ningxia partnership has been a shining success. Shihaigu is much better off today, and Minning village has grown into a town with 60,000 inhabitants. The arid terrain of the old days has been transformed into a sea of opportunities. Similar changes have been seen also in Inner Mongolia. In the city of Ulinkab, funding and skills from Beijing transformed potato growing into a major industry. In Shangri-La, Yunnan Province, support from Shanghai has led to the creation of 11 modern plantation bases, which sell over 200,000 tons of fresh vegetables a year back to Shanghai. Bama County in Guangxi was once extremely poor, until it began to develop an international strategy based on the advanced ideas proposed by Guangdong Province. Zhejiang Province is committed to helping 140,000 poor people in Sichuan to find jobs. Shandong sent 100 medical personnel to Chongqing and its rural communities. Tianjin helped Lanzhou in Gansu to develop a summer vegetable supply chain. Suzhou replicated its modern agricultural operations in Tongren, Guizhou. And Dalian has, over the past 5 years, been significantly increasing its financial aid to Liupan Shui in Guizhou. For many poor Western areas, the assistance from the East has meant more than just opportunities, it brings with it fresh ideas. "14 cities in China's 9 eastern provinces paired themselves with 14 underdeveloped cities and provinces in its central and western regions. And 343 developed counties in the east and 573 poor counties in the west also entered a partnership."
"东西部扶贫协作的推动吧，首先得益于总书记在地方工作的实践，特别得益于18大以后党中央重大决策，我们能够动员这么多的社会单位，能够动员到这么多的人力、物力、财力，能够把东部地区那么最好的人才、技术、资金、企业这个资源整合起来，我们认为确实是充分展现了咱们党的政治优势和社会主义的制度优势。
Back in 1986, China had already launched a large-scale systematic poverty alleviation campaign in the West. 13 party and central government departments took the lead. targeted poverty alleviation was identified as a political task, and various financial institutions, universities, and central enterprises were mobilized to support it. By 2010, every poor county in the country was covered by this targeted poverty alleviation program. Hong Kong and Macau also provided support. This is the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs.
农业农村部是第一批开展定点扶贫工作的中央国家机关之一。党的18大以来，建立了部长为第一责任人，每位副部长分别联系一个定点扶贫县的工作机制，调动全系统资源做好定点扶贫工作，帮助制定优势特色产业发展规划。
Yongshun County is a major ethnic Tujia population center. The villages in its northern mountainous areas were extremely poor. Until 2018, they had no significant industry. Officials from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs were sent to every poverty-stricken village to help develop suitable industries.
我们土下车祖祖辈辈都喝那个茶，喝了最舒服，吃到最好凉爽。
The officials noted that almost every household was growing Mei tea, which required little tending but enjoyed a high growth rate. Also, the yellow-red soil in the Wuling Mountains area was ideal.
今天你看的几个村，主要都是在种这个煤厂。
The ministry decided to help Yongshun to develop a modern tea industry. The first thing the officials did was to organize the farmers into a cooperative so they could obtain the starting capital they needed to establish a sizable plantation. However, the results in the first year weren't very good, and some of the farmers wanted to quit.
我们做了这么长时间，我们一点效益都没有。我现在呢，就是想，我个人不想做了。
但是你也知道，那个做农业的话，见效可能是挺慢的，最起码的话3年以后才有见到效益，就没有。
They'd only just launched the industry, but already some people wanted to quit. The ministry sent officials to talk to them.
哎，来拿把刀，来了一下。坐。
现在有困难，我们一块想办法，包括做市场、加工，都一起想办法，好不好？
The ministry officials and the farmers worked together to find a solution. They studied other tea-growing areas. They also registered Yongshun Meicha tea as a brand.
我们想把这个煤茶从种到加工到市场到品牌，把这个模式落在基层。我们走了以后，大家还能继续这么做下去，老百姓就可以持续的增收。
如果要是没有你们，我肯定坚持不下来，实实在在的。
你别激动，别激动。
真的是非常非常感谢。我现在的话，就是说虽然是做起来了，但是不是做的非常大，但是我有信心把它做得更大更强。一定不会让你们失望。
In 2020, the Tujia's traditional Ganyan festival fell on January the 17th. This was also the day Yongshun County was declared out of poverty. Targeted assistance and the advantages of industry have made a solid contribution to China's fight against poverty. Yunyang in Hubei province, with help from the Ministry of Water Resources, developed a hydraulic engineering project. In Dushan, Guizhou, a series of ecological projects received support from the National Forestry and Grassland Administration. In Horchin right-wing middle banner in Inner Mongolia, the CPC Publicity Department encouraged ecological development, cattle breeding, tourism, the afforestation of deserts, and film and television production. Deadlines were set for the banner, its villages, and even individuals to escape from poverty. Progress was significantly speeded up, thanks to the large market created by public service advertising on CCTV. In Chunhua, Shanxi, representatives from the Bank of China helped to improve the local infrastructure and train fruit growers. Under a long-term program, 300,000 Bank of China employees are committed to purchasing Chunhua's local produce. Bulonggo village in Gansu province was provided with a proper water supply and a decent road by China Petrochemical Corporation. The company also helped to set up quinoa and agaric growing businesses. Across the country, by the end of 2020, 307 central government departments had helped 592 targeted counties out of poverty. In Shawa village, the kindergarten children have lessons in the open. Their teacher is an army officer. The People's Liberation Army has been active in the poverty alleviation campaign. Soldiers have helped 4,100 poor villages in old revolutionary bases, border regions, and areas with significant ethnic minority populations. Shawa is an old village in Yunnan's border regions. Most of its residents are ethnic New. 9/10 of its arable land is mountain slopes. Growing corn brought landslides, but very little income. The poverty rate was 75%. In 2017, the Nujiang military region decided to step in. With education deemed to be the key to providing help, villagers were sent on training courses and teachers were brought in for the children. A plan was also suggested for growing kiwi fruit. But initially, few villagers were interested.
我们查完这个坡，扎了一坡，种了一地，最后收了一箩筐，推了一磨子，吃到最后就是那么小碗了。但我们这个猕猴桃就不一样了，
种蘑菇是人也可以吃，猪也可以吃，鸡也可以吃，但种猕猴桃呢？ 猪也可以吃，吃不得；鸡可以吃，吃不得。
就是这样的。我这个猪杂还是个大院，我但特别是有点闻大，我自己都是啊。
我现在唯一担心的啊，就是你们这个思路打不开，还是紧紧的抱住我们村里面这个祖祖辈辈的传下，种保护这个救命稻草，没得敢于创新这个意识。
Specialists from the provincial capital were brought in to help the villagers establish an industry.
小心，敬礼。
这个就外放的有点过多了。
A militia group was formed to mobilize the village.
物料干哈？
我撒湖了，我撒湖啊。
啥湖？啥方呢？
我已经放到10户了，有10户了。
每户给它种上1亩，种个大概就是20亩左右的一个示范基地，给大家看看。
The land they were offered wasn't much, but it was enough to persuade them. Before long, the old village was covered with orchard after orchard of kiwi fruit. On the urging of the village militia, they also set up a business cooperative. The military region also built a road, the first one the village had ever had. Transport no longer relied on pack animals. Small vegetable gardens kept the locals supplied with fresh vegetables. And for the first time in its history, the village was given its own kindergarten. Thanks to the targeted assistance from the local military region, in December 2019, Shawa was declared out of poverty.
向国旗敬礼。
Shawa Village is one example of PLA's support for the nationwide poverty alleviation campaign. In Hotan, Xinjiang, the army helped the village of Balamas to quadruple its income by establishing a hatchery. As for the Navy, a program called My Hometown, My Ship guaranteed to increase the consumption of produce from targeted villages. In Huangjia Geta village Shanxi, the Air Force helped launch a modern farming operation by building 231 greenhouses. Across the country, in 4,100 impoverished villages, people put their trust in the People's Liberation Army to help them. As a result, 924,000 people were lifted out of poverty and could start a new life. On this mountain, the tallest electric pylon in the world was being erected.
这根子挖好了之后，必须要盖起来，盖的话，明天这个雪会吹到里面，直接就填满了。
This is part of the Ngari Zhangchong power network.
汽车以及大型的机械是没有办法到达塔位的，所以这个阻塔作业我们只能选择采用人工包干阻力。
休息一下，休息一下，歇一下再干。
歇一下，歇一下。
爬不了，爬不动，就是没力气。
The provision of power networks was a key project in poverty-stricken areas. Considerable effort and resources were poured into expanding the electric grid. In rural areas, the old grid was upgraded. The aim was to supply every poor village with electric power.
让我们为胜利欢呼！好。
Eventually, every village in the country was linked to the state grid.
真的就是感觉在老乡们脱贫致富的道路上，我们能给他们点上一盏灯，贡献一点自己的力量。我觉得来到这里，我们值了。
Night after night, they worked in the freezing cold on the perilous mountain, determined to help set the local people on the road to a new life. Even though China has entered the high-speed rail era, some mountainous areas are still served by old-fashioned slow trains. Transporting the local produce out of the mountains for sale was a challenge. As a key poverty alleviation measure, the National Rail Group maintained 81 pairs of slow trains in these areas. A ticket is very cheap, just 2 yuan for the shortest distance. That has been the price for over 30 years. For convenience, in half of the carriages, the seats have been removed so that people can bring their goods. Now, these carriages are themselves a market.
我赚了50块，我也买了60块钱。没得马车，没得人了，没得吃，没得穿了。没有慢车的话，我们挣不了钱啊。
These carriages are loaded with the hope that the way ahead may lead to prosperity. The Dulong River ravine in China's southwest offers some spectacular scenery. China Mobile resolved to provide the area with high-speed broadband. Beginning in 2013, it stepped up the construction of base stations. Natural disasters are a frequent occurrence here. It's only possible to work for 3 months of the year. The equipment first had to be shipped in by trucks, then carried by tractors and horses. The only way to cover the final 1,000 meters to the base station site was by cable.
Sinh心跳了吧？多花几次就习惯就不怕了，哎。
20 masts had to be erected for every kilometer. Carrying masts 9 meters long and 550 kilos in weight along the wet, slippery cliffs was slow, dangerous work. At most, progress was only 100 meters a day.
我们的站点大部分是设在最高点，都是冒着生命危险去做这个。
Making use of the internet in alleviating poverty was an innovative approach pioneered in China. It has been mentioned repeatedly by President Xi. China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom responded by stepping up the construction of base stations in poverty-stricken areas.
组织我们全集团 对全国832个贫困县呢，逐一排查，制定了我们的具体的工作方案。我可以肯定的讲，就是所有有需求、网络覆盖需求的贫困地区，我们都覆盖了我们的通信网络。
In 2015, Dulong Town was given its first 4G base station. And in 2019, it received its first 5G signal. Back in 2015, optical fiber coverage extended to fewer than 70% of poor villages nationwide. Today, 4G reaches 98% of them. Across the country, state-owned enterprises stepped forward to support the fight against poverty. This remote village lying among the Dabye Mountains was once part of the Jinjai Revolutionary Base. For 5 months every year, it was cut off from the outside world by heavy snow. In 2014, Anhui Investment Group made Shuiping a target of its poverty relief work. The local government built roads, installed a water supply, and made general improvements to the local infrastructure, while the group focused on a long-term development plan.
我这一上来之后，我可以给大家分红。另外一个呢，大家可以在务工啊干活挣钱。
也那不行，
怎么了？
你电话不知道哪里榴莲马月。你们老讲不行的。我们走走。走啊！大主，什么？好讲不行吗？啊，有什么话不能好好讲
？Nothing is more persuasive than actual results. Anhui Investment invited its business partners to get involved, and together they drew up a plan to promote rural tourism. 8 million yuan was invested in setting up modern bed and breakfast hostels.
要开放，对吧？我们要开放，大家把这个平台搭起来，然后我们融合在一起弄事情。
对，
我能给你带来客户吗？
大家都有这种公益的心，对吧？都想为贫困村做点事情。然后呢，我们扶贫也都是社会的各界的力量的参与，不仅是国有企业，还有这个各种社会组织，包括银行，包括这个民营企业。
The combined effort brought tremendous change. Free medical treatment was provided, as well as childcare for children whose parents were away working. Tourists flocked to Shuiping and left laden with local produce.
来，大家来签协议了。
我们水平城呢，他们都是弄好了，我们以后我们什么都能发展得好，对吧？
In November 2019, Shuiping was declared out of poverty. The village committee had paid off its debts and even shared a 100,000 yuan bonus among the villagers.
这么多年，我们通过建民宿、发展有机茶、搞乡村旅游，其实就相当于搭建了这么一个平台，让跟我们有合作关系的这200多家单位以及更多的社会力量到村里来，跟我们一起合力攻坚。 就相当于照进水平的一束光。
They had brought the light of hope to the poverty-stricken households. "10,000 businesses supporting 10,000 villages" is a joint initiative launched by the All China Federation of Industry and Commerce, the State Council's Poverty Relief Office, and China Brilliance Society. It brings together large numbers of conscientious private business people. Evergrande Group invested 11 billion yuan in the city of Bijie in Guizhou, building factories in resettlement areas. Each factory was committed to finding at least 50% of its workforce from among local poverty-stricken families. Taobao and other e-commerce platforms opened special online sites selling produce from poverty-stricken areas. For 119 villages, these sites offered them their own shop window. Wanda invested 2.1 billion yuan in developing Danjai in Guizhou into a tourism village. Tencent has helped almost 1,400 poor villages with selling their produce. Country Garden Group funded operations for 300,000 poor cataract patients.
全国上下都在这个脱贫攻坚嘛，我觉得机会非常难得。
我觉得就应该留在这里，踏踏实实的为他们做一点事情，
为家乡做一点点贡献。看到他们的日子越过越好，生活越来越有奔头，我们做的这一切都是值得的。
By the end of 2020, 127,000 businesses had signed up for the 10,000 Businesses for 10,000 Villages campaign. President Xi praised their actions. He said, private enterprises are active doing their share for society. Their work has helped many poverty-stricken people up and out of poverty.
Hello， 大家好，这是特别亲切的。但是大家可以就是说，在直播的时候，你可以换一个词。
我们要怎么才能把东西卖出去？底下聊天，上面一个我要直播就可以直接直播。
Longnan County in Gansu Province offers an e-commerce class every week. In Moheba Village, Wang Pengyan was trained by the local government to offer e-commerce support for her neighborhood. Specialists from Taobao and Buy Together came to help teach the local people. The major telecoms companies set up a 5G base station in the village, while China Post established an office there. Finally, a road network was built, serving every single poor household.
大家看，这个呢就是你们要的导生。今天我们全家人在这里给大家打包，你们很快就能收到。这些导生呢，是我和妹妹搜集我们村里全村人的导生，也是最后的一些。
When you have a dream, the future seems bright. As the poverty relief effort progressed, so new forms of doing business appeared. By the end of 2020, there were no longer any poverty-stricken households in Moheba. By this time, their e-commerce model had been adopted by almost 2/3 of the country's poorest counties. The rise of e-commerce in rural areas significantly reduced the costs involved in selling produce. Since 2019, the value of poverty relief through consumption has reached in excess of 500 billion yuan. This spending was the result of a gigantic campaign waged nationwide to assist poverty-stricken people through both direct and indirect purchasing.
脱贫攻坚奖是扶贫领域的国家级荣誉。这个奖项啊，对于表彰社会。
October the 17th is National Poverty Alleviation Day. Every year, awards are given out to honor poverty alleviation workers, among them the unsung heroes. In 2013, Sha Sen, who was 90 at the time, donated $1 million to establish the Sha Sen Education Foundation, which awards grants to send students from poverty-stricken families to college.
你捐出去给我学生能念书，将来给国家做很多事儿。
沙森奶奶她其实就鼓励我们要做一个对国家有用的人。
金星工程，我们。
Also in 2013, Liu Qifang launched the Jixin project to raise money to help rural residents who were suffering from heart disease. By 2020, over 18,000 people had benefited. Regardless of age, people have rallied to work for the common cause.
空间真脱贫，振兴产业奔小康，扶贫扶志，他教求知，消费扶贫，持续增收，携手奔小康，共圆中国梦，不脱贫，不伤贫，不奋斗，不侵权，耶！
全面建成小康社会，一个也不能少；共同富裕路上，一个也不能掉队。
翻山越岭，一颗心，连着贫穷的百姓。日出东方。 让阳光照亮渴望的眼睛，攻坚克难，砥砺前行，难以见风雨，海水流淌真情，攻坚克难，砥砺前行。 见风雨，海水流淌真情，踏上征程，心向光明，执着信仰点燃奋斗的激情，全面小康，举杯同庆，就是我。 就是我们最美的约定。向未来出发，实现民